Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Benj Foreman. I'm a realtor here in Boise, Idaho. Today I want to talk about something that not a lot of home buyers are thinking about when they set out to buy a home. Most people are focused on saving enough money to make that down payment. They want to put 5% down, 10%, 20% down on their home. But what they forget though is that there's more upfront costs than just the down payment. And a significant one is closing costs. Closing costs typically are 2 to 3% of the loan amount, and those need to be paid at closing. By the way, did you like my not so subtle advertisement in the background? That's the homepage to my YouTube channel, and I threw it in there just so that you'd hit that little thumbs up button. So go ahead and do it right now. Hit the little like button, kind of makes me feel good. So today I'm interviewing Kellie Allen from Synergy One Lending. She's the branch manager there and also a loan officer. And she's going to tell us everything that there is to know about closing costs. What are they? How much are they? What are we paying for when we pay for closing costs? All of those things in about 4 minutes. So let's listen in and see what she has to say. So somebody wants to buy a house. Closing costs is a factor they need to factor into the cash that they need up front. What are closing costs? What are you paying for in closing costs? And approximately how much are they?
So in general, and I'm going to give you a real general because of course it depends on the purchase price, right? So in general, I say you're going to probably be looking between 2.5–3% for your closing costs. Now, that again depends on your purchase price because some costs are fixed. So for instance, the appraisal cost. The appraisal cost is going to be the same if you're buying a $100,000 house or if you're buying a $300,000 house. So that's a fixed cost. But some of them are variable based on the purchase price and the loan amount, things like title insurance and the escrow fee. So those will fluctuate. In general, though, if you look somewhere between 2.5% and 3%. So when you're talking about buying the home, you're going to have two things. You're going to have your down payment and you're going to have your closing costs, and you want to account for both of those. A lot of times people get really focused on the down payment, which is obviously super important. It has to come from you, but the closing costs are on top of that. And so if you get excited because you got your 5% down saved up, which is excellent, you still have to think who's going to pay that extra 2.5% or 3% for closing costs. And that is negotiable. Buyer or seller can pay, but it's super important that you let your agent know, hey, I'm going to need to have the seller help me with those closing costs. And then that's something that's part of the negotiation in the purchase.
Right. And if somebody puts 20% down, is that closing cost the same amount as if somebody puts 5% down?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. So again, it's dependent a little bit. Some of the costs are dependent upon the loan amount. So your loan amount would be higher if you only put 5% down than versus if you put 20. So they will fluctuate slightly.
Okay.
Yep.
And obviously, I'm sure somebody's asked this, but can you wrap that up into the loan? Say, oh, I'll just put the closing costs on the loan.
And you can't. That's not allowed. On a purchase, the closing costs are needing to be paid at closing. And the closing costs are the buyer's costs, right? They're the cost of getting the loan. So we can negotiate that into the contract where you can ask the seller to pay those closing costs. And if you do ask the seller to pay those closing costs, then that gets credited to you on your bottom line at closing. And that's a way to, you don't really get them financed, but you get them so that you're not the one paying them, the seller's paying them. And that's all as part of your offer and what you're talking about doing. So a lot of times people will say, let's say the house is, a $300,000 house is listed for, but the closing costs are $5,000. Well, they might offer the seller $305,000 for the house and ask them to pay $5,000 of your closing costs. And that's all the same. So that's totally allowable. Each type of loan has a maximum amount of seller paid closing costs that they can pay, but it's very generous. I mean, like on an FHA loan, it's 6%. Well, there's not anywhere near 6% closing costs for a loan. So you're usually well within the range of all of that.
And what are you actually paying for? I mean, $6,000 or $5,000, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. You're actually paying third-party closing costs, right? So appraisal fees, title insurance fees, the escrow fee, the flood certification fee to make sure it's not in a flood zone, the credit report fee, all of those things that go into it. If we pay any discount points to buy that rate down, that would be part of the closing cost as well. And then you have what are called, these are closing costs, but they're called prepaid fees. And these are things like your first year of your homeowner's insurance premium that gets paid at closing, right? Mm-hmm. And then we have an escrow account set up for taxes and insurance. We've got to put some money in there So it's all the borrower's money, but we're taking it and we got to pay out that first year at closing. We got to put some money in the escrow account so we can pay those as they come due. So those are the prepaid fees, and that all gets rolled into what's due at closing. And so all part of the closing cost amount that the seller or the buyer can pay for.
Well, if you take away one thing from this video, I hope that it's this. Be sure to factor in closing costs into the total amount of cash that you need in order to purchase a home. Like Kelly said, closing costs are about 2 to 3% of the loan amount. And before we go, I want to say thanks to Kellie Allen. Thanks for that interview. You gave a lot of great information about lending and everything connected to financing a home. So if you haven't seen those videos, I'll put a link to those up here in the top of the window. Check those videos out. But thanks again to Kelly and her team there at Synergy One Lending. They're great. If you're looking for a lender, go to them. They're really on top of things. They're efficient, on time, really great lending agency. I love working with them. If you haven't already hit the subscribe button, smash that little red button down below and give me a little thumbs up, kind of makes me feel good. And if you do both of those things, I'll see you in the next one.